Welcome to Astoria Film Festival Presents, our weekly half-hour program featuring our films, filmmakers, events, and the local community. We're speaking with Max Cianci and Anthony Peduzzi, whose film Loopy appears in our 2020 festival. If you can tell us a little bit about yourselves, about your backgrounds, and then also what led you to making this film specifically.
Sure. Yeah. So got into film and film stuff late in like high schoolish time. We all went to school together, me and Max, and then some of the people we usually work with a lot.
College, not high school.
Yeah. We moved on to college, decided to pursue it there. And it started to work out a little bit. We started working in the industry here a lot. On different movies and TV shows that come through here. I worked on the Mr. Rogers movie. I did the miniatures for that. And then we did like some other stuff on the other movies coming out, and started rolling with that. And I've been kind of directing and working on our own projects, corporate, commercial, music video, and that kind of stuff ever since.
Yep. And so like Anthony said, we all met in college, and luckily I think by our like third year in school, we had really found a core group of people that we like to work with. And Anthony and I, of course, ended up rooming together, and that's how we ended up together during quarantine, leading to making this project. And one thing that was cool for, I think, both of us was Anthony and I both concentrated in directing. So it was rare that we both got to work on sets together because we were both doing them independently. But obviously, because of this, we were able to both kind of come together and just both of us work on something, which was really cool. And so that's basically the story. And how like I just started to explain how we ended up making the film was because we were stuck here together, and we knew we wanted to make something, and we were both kind of sick of talking about these projects that we had worked on months and years ago. And we came up with, a basic concept that we just kind of sort of just went at, and we went up to the building and looked at it, and we kind of came up with it as we went along, and it was a lot of fun. But yeah, that's sort of how it came about.
What college did you guys meet at?
So we went to Point Park University here in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. Go Steelers or whoever. So yeah, we all met up there from different places. We're all from this part of Pennsylvania, so we all kind of converged.
Yes.
Downtown in the school, and kind of started to meet each other and like learn how we all operate and stuff. And now kind of are just a roving cast of different people doing different things and other people's sets and that kind of thing.
I think a circus troupe might be the best way to explain it.
Yeah, what's like the most goofy word for like a community? That's kind of what we're going for here. Yeah. It's kind of a vibe.
So where can people find you and your work, like websites, Instagram handles, that sort of thing?
My Instagram handle is Max C, the letter C 191. Basically I just operate off my Vimeo, which is just Vimeo / Max Cianci, MAXCIANCI. And that's where I post most of my work, is Instagram and Vimeo. So those are good spots.
Yeah. And I'm at anthonypeduzzi.com. Got the domain. Thank God. All the socials and stuff are on there, and there's another Anthony Peduzzi on YouTube somewhere who
he's a hack.
He's jumping off cliffs and like riding RVs. Like, that's not me, but I mean, it's kind of fun to watch sometimes. So I guess check him out. Free plug.
Yeah,
you're welcome, Anthony.
So how did the actual idea for the film come about? Like, was it something you just kind of thought about, or was it like inspired by something? Like, how did that come to you? And the dust, the kind of the falling to dust was like one of my favorite parts of it. So how did that all like come about?
Well, I was on a walk one day. I knew that building because Anthony and I had like kind of been to it before, because it's just like a big abandoned building right by where we live, and it's very, as you can see in the film, it's like really interesting looking inside. And I was like looking up at one of the windows, and the curtains looked really cool. They were bellowing and like sucking inside. And I was like, man, that's spooky. And I kind of thought like, that would be really weird if I saw myself in the window, like just like thinking, I try to like come up with things that I think this is going to be it. And 99.9% of the time it's nothing. But I remember thinking like, I think this could be like a cool little idea. And so I was kind of looking around in the building, and I came back and told Anthony, and we went right back up there, and we kind of just like walked through it. And we both kind of thought, why not just make it? It's simple. And I think people might like it right now because, you know, the whole theme of the whole thing. And I believe it was Anthony's edition that was the dust, that was the whole idea of him turning to dust at the end and everything. So yeah, that's how the concept at least started going.
Yeah, it was kind of funny because he was just like, yeah, it'd be kind of cool. So we went over and we talked about it for a second. We're like, maybe it's a time loop. Huh?
Yeah.
Why not? Like,
Yeah.
why not? And then what would happen?
Yeah. And I remember, because that's another thing too, like I remember seeing myself in the window, and I remember like the concept of like, oh, like, well, what if I, you know, I didn't see something up here, but I went to the door because I wanted to go to that room. And then once I was up at the room, I saw myself. And then I went down to the door, and then I just like disappeared. And that was like the bones of it. And then the dust thing came into play, which I think was like the glue that actually held it together to make it like keep compelling to be able to watch it. But the loop thing too, which like Anthony and I talked about a lot, like that was like one interesting part of it, because we've just found ourselves like, well, if he's here and he's here, then like, how's this going to work out? And if he hears footsteps up here, like where would this other guy be? And it ended up, it's not that complicated, but it ended up being more complicated than we had anticipated. And we just had to make sure we knew where the hell the Maxes were. And once we figured that out, it was okay.
Yeah, we're like, oh, this will be fun. Like, let's do it tomorrow. So then we came home and then started grinding up kitty litter and rice and all sorts of stuff. Whatever we could find that would kind of match.
Yeah.
And then, yeah, the next morning we went over and started doing it.
Yep.
Just
Kitty litter and rice, was that the key?
Yeah, it was
a lot of different things.
We used a lot of different things. We used the main thing was kitty litter that we were planning on using, but it was too coarse. It wasn't fine enough because we wanted like the dust effect. So we ended up like grinding it up on our floor. Like we have a pot. Like we were like grinding up with pots, you know. And then
Max did this.
Yeah, I broke the pot because we were getting into it. Like we were really fired up. And but yeah, so
I mean,
so
that's like the best part of filmmaking, is figuring those things out.
It is, and that goes back to like, it felt so great to be creating something after like not so long, and like I said, like so long of just talking about past projects, but then you just find yourself doing it and you're like, man, I could be doing this way more often, you know. So yeah, that was how the dust came to be. And in my mouth, a lot of people were like, oh, you put kitty litter in your mouth, and that's not really good for my image. So I want to put it out there that it was brown sugar, white rice, and then I put some grease paint in because I had to like sell it. So,
it was too healthy at that point.
Yeah, it had to put some sort of like toxic thing to give it that B-movie appeal. But that's what I put in my mouth.
And some of it was like cement and mortar.
Oh yeah.
So the masks, you know, that was when the masks started being a thing. So
yeah.
We got a lot of use out of them at that time.
Yeah, we found a bunch of like quick-crete cement that we like, you know, kind of trailed all around that building.
Really
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Do you know what its former use was by any chance?
Yeah, so the building was, it's attached to a church.
Yeah.
In our neighborhood, and it used to be like an elementary, like Catholic school.
Mm-hmm.
So it used to.
Well, that's so appropriate.
Yeah.
I went to Catholic school. It's spooky even without the dust.
Yeah.
we went in there like right whenever lockdown and stuff started happening, just to kind of get out and like look around. And it's terrifying inside.
Yeah, it is very
scary.
It is so scary. Like we would be standing there, and as you see in the thing, there's like these long like staircases up, like spiral type staircases. And the way the wind is in that building, like something would happen in the basement, and that sound would just echo like through the entire building. Where so many times when we were shooting, I would stop and I'd be like this, and Anthony would be like, "It's just a wind," and I'm like, "Oh my God, I gotta get out of here," because it's just terrifying. But
yeah, and we live in like the punk neighborhood of the city, so there's like a lot of kids and people were like breaking in there.
Yeah,
and like just a lot of graffiti and cans and God only knows what. It's a bit of a disaster in there.
There was some throwing caution to the wind with that location, but yeah, it looked good.
So anything you'd like to say before we wrap up at all about anything, honestly?
Well, we almost got arrested.
Yeah. That's it.
Why wouldn't you lead with that?
That's the fun.
You gotta save that for dessert, you know? That's gotta be the last thing.
Yeah, the making of this thing is way better than it. Like, it was just way more fun and interesting.
Yeah.
So what happened?
Yeah, so we were so like we shot over, I guess it was like 2.5-ish days just because we just made the whole thing up as we went along. Like, we shot it basically in order.
Yeah.
We're like, oh, okay, we gotta stop here so we can do it tomorrow for the light and stuff. So, the first day you're walking around quietly and you hear like this wind coming up the steps and you're like, is someone here? Like, what's going on? We're really quiet about it. And then by the third day, like, we're shooting those like Zooms like in and out, and we're just yelling to each other.
Yeah, because my phone died, and I'm just like, Anthony, did you get it?
Yeah,
He's like, no. And this is a residential area.
Yeah, it's like houses.
like
we were just like, caution to the wind, like, who cares? Like 2.5 days, like, what's the worst gonna happen? And then we were grabbing this. We were like, okay, it'd be really great to get this one shot for the edit just to make sure it works. Like, you run down the steps, and then we shoot the rehearsal of it, and then we just hear like, hello. Yeah. And we're like, oh, and it's like something, police. So like we go outside and there's 4 cruisers, there's a K9 unit, and there's like 8 officers, and then like 2 dirty children walk out of the building, and then they look at us. They kind of are aggressive for a second, and it just was.
Wow!
Yeah, it was interesting, especially the dog. They were like, we were about to send a dog in. I was like, my
For
God.
what? Wait, because you were filming, or they heard screaming? Is that the issue?
I have a feeling they really thought something bad was going on. Whether I don't want to make any suggestions, but enough to send a drug dog into an abandoned building.
That's pretty weird.
Where 2 people were shouting out the window.
Well, there was a lot of banging and screaming for a brief period.
Yeah, yeah, and like a lot of dust probably on my face. It didn't look good. It wouldn't have looked good in court. I'll be honest. But luckily, Pittsburgh's finest were forgiving, and they let us off with a warning. But
oh my goodness! Well, thank goodness.
Yeah, it was okay.
That's an awesome story, though.
Welcome to the Astoria Film Festival Step and Repeat interviews. Today we're speaking with John Gray, whose films Exit Package, The Desecrated, and Household Demons appear in this year's festival. John Gray is also a well-known director who created the Ghost Whisperer TV series and has directed a long list of films, including Martin and Lewis, The Hunley, and Helter Skelter.
So if you tell us a little bit about what led you to create this short film and how you came up with the ideas.
Well, what led me to create this really was just frustration. I try to do a short film every year, sometimes 2 if I can manage it. Yeah. And it always seems to work out to do them in May. And so I had one ready to go. I wanted to start prepping it in January. And then, of course, introducing COVID-19. So I was so just, very grateful, of course, to be healthy, but just frustrated to not be able to do anything. And so, I was doing so much, as we all did, on Zoom.
Yep.
Meetings with friends and parties, and and I started to think about, is there a way to do a movie, a little murder mystery maybe, where people are getting killed one by one on the Zoom platform. And so I started thinking about it. I thought, this could be really fun. And I got a bunch of my actor friends and some who I didn't know, but they were so thrilled to just be doing something.
Yes, yes.
And so that's how it came about. I just sort of, wrote this. It's a little, as you know, it's a little comedic, a little thrillerish. And we did a day of rehearsal, and then we just kind of shot it, on Zoom.
Yep.
In one day.
It's funny because I do film workshops with kids. And so when COVID hit, we took them online and just tried to figure it out. And as I was trying to think of a movie, the first thing that came to mind was, oh, well, we have these little boxes. If we kill somebody, but they're 9-year-olds. So I couldn't really do that without upsetting a lot of parents. So we did something, but not murder. So so I was happy to see it done.
Right. Yeah. It was really, just one of those things where you start to think about what you can, and the challenge was to try to, even though it's basically people talking the way you and I are now, about how to keep it a little bit cinematic, how to try to get some movement into it.
Yes.
Going back and forth and having a lot of action happening at the same time. And so there's a certain amount of choreography involved.
And definitely like everybody's performance was amazing. Obviously they're talented actors, but your history as a director, I'm sure, played into that as well. But where did you get the idea for, because I'm still like, does he know something I don't know about the offshore kind of like people faking their COVID vaccines? Like it all sounded very realistic, is all I'm saying.
Good to hear. No, I was, I started out thinking about just, organically, I knew I wanted to do a Zoom meeting. I knew I wanted to have people getting killed, sort of one by one, and what's happening here. And so that naturally led me to want to do something sinister. This meeting has to be about something bad. They've got to be criminals. They're up to something. And so, an investment company these days, that's an easy target for, to make a villain out of.
They've made themselves an easy target.
Right, exactly. And so, that just kind of grew from that. And of course, if they're a crooked investment company and they're selling bad investments, what in this time frame is a great bad investment? Cure for COVID. We'd all like to have one. They have absolutely no moral qualms at all, about selling that. So I think it's fun sometimes to deal with characters who are just so morally bankrupt that there's nothing they won't do. And then when they start getting theirs, it's a lot of fun to see. Shot last December, before all this happened, and then we got shut down in post-production with COVID. So it was only in June and July I was able to get the last elements I needed, the visual effects and stuff like that. So that's now finished finally. So we're going out with that. And I'm writing. We're trying to develop another series. My producer partners and I are working a couple of things. I'm trying to raise money for a feature film. So a lot of balls in the air, as you have to have.
And how did you get into filmmaking?
Right. Well, I was very lucky in a lot of ways because I never really understood how hard it was until it was too late, until I was already trying to really do it.
Yeah, no.
And
very good.
I grew up in Brooklyn, and my father was an iron worker. My mother worked for the city. I mean, I had no connections whatsoever.
Yeah, my dad was a barber, and I grew up in Queens, so I understand.
Yeah, my father was from Queens. He was from Jackson Heights. He was born in Jackson Heights, and then he lived for many years in in Astoria, and one other section which escapes me now. But anyway, he was a very diehard Queens guy.
Yeah. We tend to be.
Yeah. And so I was just I wanted to. I just read a lot. Of course, I went to the movies when I was a kid, and I loved movies. And I used to think I wanted to be an actor because I thought the actors did it all. And so I started to make little movies. My uncle had an old 8mm camera. I started to make little movies. And I started to realize that it's not the person who really makes the movie is this consciousnness behind the camera.
Yes.
That's the real storytelling. And the rest of it are just, and so then I started getting really serious about wanting to direct. And so I just made movies any way I possibly could. Regular rate film, Super 8 film, later on 16mm film. I begged, borrowed, and stole to make movies. I just had to do it. You could not stop me. Yeah. And then ultimately, I got hired to direct some educational films in Washington, D.C., which led to some narrative films. And then ultimately, I wrote a script. I was always writing all the time. And one script that I wrote got me an agent, a big agent. And then all of a sudden, things just changed after like 10 years of starving and eating my shoes. I suddenly started getting writing work. And of course, I said to my agent, but I'm really a director. And he said, of course you are. But let's concentrate on the writing and that'll lead to the directing. And he was right. So that's kind of how I got, that's a very, very Reader's Digest version of it. But the thing that I always tell young people starting out is that the best thing to do is just to get out there and make a movie. And now, with everything at your fingertips, you've got a movie studio in your pocket.
Yeah, literally.
You shoot it, edit it, anything. It's so easy to do. So there is no excuse for not getting out there and making your movie and make it as best you can. Learn from it. I also try to encourage, young aspiring filmmakers to read a lot, so they can really understand structure and drama. Because, well, anyway, I did a feature film years ago called White Irish Drinkers, a little indie movie, and we screened it at Columbia. for the film students. And it was disappointing in a way because the only questions I got from them were technical ones. You know, what lens was that? And how'd you get that shot? And how, you know,
Yes.
and, you know, there's
But
such
they were trying to impress you. They think that stuff impresses people. I've been there. I've seen that. They totally think that stuff impresses people.
Well, I tried to explain to them that, you know, that's all great and it's important, but what really makes filmmaking is storytelling and drama and structure and knowing how to work with actors and knowing how to tell a story. And you know, there are all these great tools that we use, which are fun and sexy, but you know, so many times young people are just obsessed with the technical aspects of it, and the rest is boring. You know, and that's what I try to encourage them to read and see theater and really understand, you know, dramatic structure. The most important thing is to know the story you want to tell, have a vision for it, and then you surround yourself with people who can help you execute that vision.
Yes.
But, you know, they're going to look to you for the vision. You better have that. No one cares if you say, okay, give me a 50 on sticks. You know, wow. You know,
Exactly.
that's the DP's job. You know,
You're right. That's the easy way in to look cool, sound cool,
Right.
you know what you're talking about. How can people reach you or find your work?
my Twitter handle is just at J Thomas Gray, Gray.
Anything you'd like to say before we wrap up, I guess.
You know, I just want to. I guess I just like to say, you know, how important I think film festivals are. And my wife is my producing partner on my films, and you know, whenever we love to, when we can, travel with the films, and you know, last year we were in Boulder and Sedona and Savannah and in LA, and you know, it's an important thing because as a filmmaker, you often are in a vacuum. You know, especially in New York, because it's not Hollywood. You know, it's not in your face every second, every day.
Yeah.
So it tends to be a bit of a vacuum, and festivals give you that opportunity to see, you know, what other people are up to, but also to just have dialogue with other filmmakers and learn and just, you know, just indulge your passion. So it's always encourage people to support film festivals and go to them and enter them.
Well, I really appreciate that, because I mean, I've been even surprised at how much I've loved the festivals. You know what I mean? Like, it's I've met some of my now closest friends through my own festival, because it's just a beautiful community, right? These like introverted creatives who get out on very rare occasion and open their hearts to the world by showing them their inner thoughts. Like, I don't know, it's really kind of special. Today we're speaking with Louis Cortes, whose film Eve appears in our 2020 festival.
Yes.
Tell us about Eve, about your background and kind of what led you to make the film.
So my background is predominantly in horror, like horror in general. I've directed, I don't know, like 8 short films, all horror themed, and 1 feature that's actually a drama comedy. So it's funny how all my short films, for some reason, are horror, but the 1 feature I directed is a drama.
So it's like it would be even better if it was like a romantic comedy, like a horror romantic rom-com horror.
It kind of is a rom-com. It kind of, not fully. But with Eve, I wanted to just kind of tell, I'm not a parent personally, and I just wanted to tell, like, basically the stories about the sacrifices a parent would make for their kids. You know, and I have a lot of friends and family, obviously, that have children. And I just kind of wanted to kind of tell the story, like, what it would be like if you wanted to, what lengths you would go to for your child. And just show the perspective of this mother who obviously has some sort of creature inside of her that's her offspring. And then just kind of this guy that's down on his luck and is going to extreme lengths to support his child. So that was the inspiration for Eve.
So what made you think of that, though? Were you just like,
there's a couple of older films that kind of inspired me, and I had a friend of mine, she was pregnant, and then she gave birth, and I was like, oh, that's kind of interesting. I have so many friends now as I've gotten older that are having kids, and that's what kind of inspired it. And then I was also watching a couple of different, like Rosemary's Baby and stuff like that. I was like, what could I do to take that concept and adjust it to a story I would want to tell. So.
Very cool. And how did you get started in film?
I've been doing it now since 2013, I think. I went to school for media technology, so that's kind of where I started, but that was, I don't know, 12, 13 years ago. And then, you know, when I was in my mid-20s, I started kind of writing films, and that's where I kind of started with other, like not as a director, but more as just a writer and cinematographer on other people's, like, you know, short films, features. And I was just like, you know what, I want to have my own production company and make my own films, and that's what led me to where I am now, basically.
So what are you working on these days? Any new projects in the
Well,
works?
right now I'm writing another short film, longer than Eve. It's like a long form short film. It'll probably be about 40 minutes. And then I'm writing my next feature, which I probably won't start until next year. So I'm just kind of working out the screenplay now, and then hopefully, you know, once I do all my pre-production, I can start hopefully beginning of next year, see what happens.
And so horror it's interesting with our kids' film workshops now. We've been doing it for 2 years. And I think every film, maybe except one, is a horror film. And the kids choose, like the kids decide what to do. They decide the themes. And every time the kids are like, horror. And I'm like,
yeah.
Really? So what drew you towards horror?
Ever since I was a kid, I've always been a fan of like horror films, and Halloween's my favorite holiday. And that's another thing I do. I have a podcast that we focus on Halloween as a holiday in general. And that's kind of predominantly what I've always just gravitated towards. And, you know, I guess, you know, I think if you look at a lot of like known filmmakers, like even some huge filmmakers, a lot of their first films were horror films. So I feel like, you know, they're not easy to make. I think there's like this weird illusion, like this people think misconception that horror films are easy. They're not. You know, a lot of concepts have been done to death. But I think if you can take something, let's say like a zombie themed film, and kind of put your own spin on it, that's what people want to see. So I just think as a kid, you think horror is fun, and I just feel like you just gravitate towards it. That's what I think, at least.
Where can people find you and your works?
You could find me basically at newneedleproductions.com. That'll link you to a bunch of my short films and trailers and things I'm working on now. My Instagram is New Needle Productions. Type in New Needle Productions, I pop up. And then my Twitter is New Needle PROD. That's my Twitter handle. And I update, you know, when I'm working on stuff all the time. I'm on social media all the time. So that's the easiest place that's where you could find me. So.
Very cool. And anything you'd like to say before we wrap up? Anything at all?
No, just thank you guys for accepting the film. Can't wait to screen, and I appreciate it.
My pleasure. Thank you.